Good evening and welcome to, Dilworth City Council meeting for June 9th. We'll call this meeting to order and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Almost forgot what I was doing.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
With that, we'll do roll call quickly around the horn, please.
Peterson here.
Bora here.
Steichen here.
Nash.
And Olson. With that, it moves us to number 3. We have our agenda for approval. I didn't see any additions or subtractions, so we should be good to go. I will entertain a motion.
Motion, second.
And a motion by Peterson and a second by Nash. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Brings us to number 4, consent. Any questions, comments, concerns of our consent? I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Nash,
Second.
second by Peterson. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. With that, it does move us to number 5, public comment. Peyton, has there been any formal request to speak before council this evening?
None received.
Once again, encourage the public to participate in our process. We are guaranteed to make progress. With that, it does move us to number 6, fire department. We have this is just for consideration, so we don't have to, consideration. Pay request number 17, here we go. I feel like it's getting closer.
We're getting almost there, right around the corner. Just give you a quick update on where we're at here today. So basically, we've been working on, got the building taken down. We got the sub-grade prepped, got the pond dug, got the storm sewers installed. So now we're working on grading parking lots. Weather permitting, we should have that wrapped up this week. Next week, we'll work on curb and gutter, sidewalks, and pavements. And then our plan is to have most of that done so that landscaping will take place right before the Loco Day celebration, and we'll have it wrapped up, ready to go. In the main building, most of the punch list items are complete. There's a couple of minor items, whether they're being requested or some things to fix up yet, but those are getting down there, so that's where we're at. Our pay app looks like that matches my numbers, $274,608.29.
Questions from council? Hearing no questions, I will entertain a motion for pay request number 17.
Steichen, so moved.
Motion by Steichen,
Second.
second by Bora. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. One down, that one's down, how many to go?
Should have, we'll have probably one more update, and then, there'll be some minor ones that'll trickle in. We kind of hold some pay apps until everybody's 100% done and everything gets signed off on. So it might go another 2 or 3 months with payments, but I wouldn't see much more than that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Did you want me to stick around for?
Yeah, you can hang out right there.
But we are gonna go to 6 Bravo Resolution 2533, accepting the donation for the Clay Wilkin, from Clay Wilkin corn and soybean growers. Chief?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we received contact from the Clay Wilkin corn and soybeans growers. They wanted to donate a 5-gallon pail of what they call soy foam, which is a environmentally friendly foam that I have to let you know it's not NFPA right now, but they want us to try it out. And I said, sure, send it over. We haven't got it yet. It's about $250, so it was a pretty good donation, but they're doing that to multiple fire departments to have them try it out. We'll try it out on a house burn or something like that and see how it foams up and those types of things. So it is replacing the PFAS forever chemical foams that we've used in the past. And they're moving towards more of an environmentally friendly setup. Soybean oil is about as environmentally friendly as you can get. So, any questions? I'd be happy to answer them.
I got one.
Okay.
How do you use that? You get a bucket, throw
You
it
get a
on there?
bucket, and we have an inductor, and so the water passing past the inductor draws the foam into it.
Oh, so
or
then it
draws
mixes
the
the water
liquid.
and the
Yeah,
soybean foam.
so there's
is-
air mixed into it and it creates a foam.
I'm not
so-
gonna lie, Chief, I was kind of thinking like a big bubble gun and you kind of.
You could do that too if you wanted to. I haven't seen it. I think it's pretty thin. I don't think
Okay.
it's as thick as regular foam, but
I just think that's, again, interesting, the science behind it, the chemicals behind it and everything like that. And like you said, the soybean, it's 100% natural, like
yeah,
going green while you're putting out the fires. I love it.
can't go wrong. So,
I saw a demonstration at Big Iron last year. It's pretty impressive, and it degrades and, yeah, it's,
yeah, it's very environmentally friendly, and I haven't seen it foam. I haven't seen anything on it, so it'd be interesting for us to test it out,
Awesome.
see how it goes.
Thank you very much, Chief. I will entertain a motion for Resolution 2533, accepting the donation from Clay Wilkins Corn and Soybean Growers.
So moved.
A motion by Nash,
Second.
second by Steichen. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. With that, it does move us, thank you, Chief. It does move us to number 7, Community Center, 7 Alpha. We have the consideration for the contract with Gertz Construction for construction management services for the Dilworth Community Center project. Here we go. Peyton?
Absolutely. So this is more of a follow-up and formality from this time last month when council gave authorization for staff to begin negotiations for the CM services for the community center project awarded to Gertz Construction. This contract pretty well mirrors that of the one that we had for our fire hall project. And if Dan would just provide just a little update on how the financial side, the percentage fee based works, if you wouldn't mind.
It's basically just based on total cost of construction. I can't remember the number.
I think it's 6.5%.
6.5, yeah.
Yep.
So that's the lump sum fee based on, it's not a monthly fee, it's just 6.5% of construction costs.
Questions for Dan?
It's a little bit simpler than the fire station where it was more of a monthly billing per month. So I think it works out as a better for both sides.
I appreciate that because it gives us some flexibility in terms of, I can ask you all kinds of scenarios.
Yeah.
And we're not running up the bill.
Right,
Unless we add square footage.
yep. Which you're allowed to do.
Yeah, there's some truth to that. No, and again, and I do want to say, thanks, that meeting that we were at, was it 3 weeks ago or whatever, as we're going through all those scenarios and looking at the square footage and how does
Yeah,
it, it's dynamic. So answering my questions, I know becomes,
yeah, we're happy to do that.
Tedious.
That's what we're here for. So, and, I know the architects are working diligently on getting a program put together that will meet the needs of everybody, and hopefully we can get rolling. Once they have a program, we'll get started on an estimate so that we can start dialing the cost of the building and keep it in budget.
any other questions for Dan? Thanks again, Dan.
Yeah, you bet. We look forward to, continuing our working relationship.
Awesome. So with that, I will entertain a motion for the contract with Gertz Construction.
So moved.
A motion by Nash,
Second.
second by Bora. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thanks.
Dan.
Have a good night.
With that, it does move us to number 8 and 8 Alpha. We have Resolution 2525, approving the State of Minnesota Joint Powers Agreement with the City of Dilworth on behalf of the City Attorney and the Police Department. Chief?
All right, Mr. Mayor, council members, we are looking at a JPA so we can do our job. Basically, this gives us access to the National Crime Computer, CJDN. Anytime you see us on our squad computers going the beep, boop, boop stuff, not a technical term, but anytime we're running any kind of license plates or anything else, names, that's how we get our information back. It has to be a secured line, so we have to enter into a joint powers agreement to access. Basically, we need this to do our job.
Any questions for the chief? I'm not gonna ask him to define onomatopoeia.
It's stuff we need.
Stuff we need, I understand, chief. Hearing no questions, I will entertain a motion for Resolution 2525.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Nash. Second by Peterson. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks,
you.
chief. With that, it does move us to number 9, Planning and Engineering. 9 Alpha is the final plat of Eastview 11th Edition, the replat of Lot 3, Block 1, Eastview 6th Edition, parcel ID 111.0030, and that's really detailed. Peyton?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. So before you this evening is the most simple plat that you will review while you're working here. And this is the final plat of Eastview 11th Edition. So as you know, there's another building that is going up currently out in the rail district, and Lance is here, and he can come up and give a brief update in just a moment if he so chooses, just to give you an idea of where that project stands. But as far as the plat goes itself, there isn't much change from the last go-around. Again, here's the subject property right off of 14th Street. And the plat itself, there are some minor adjustments that were made, some of the recommendation on the plat that you don't see as far as like signature blocks and a few other title pieces that the attorney works on. But we did get it included with this plat, the final plat here, showing a utility easement all the way around. We generally like to see that on all of our projects. This one is meeting all subdivision requirements. Please take note of the access agreement that you have going in right here. It does stop just short of 14th Street, since access will not be coming off of 14th Street. The intent, obviously, at this point is to get this lot developed, and then this will be reserved for a future phase. But with that said, the final plat approval passed with unanimous vote, and here it's to the city council for their final consideration. After this, it will, we'll sign off on the plat. All parties will sign off and execute the plat, and then it'll be taken to be recorded, and there you go, new property.
Questions for Peyton?
And again, Lance is here to answer any questions, or if he'd like to give just a quick update on how the construction's going.
Just a point of procedure, right? This isn't a public hearing?
Correct.
Okay, just want to make sure that we're,
Just a quick question on that access. Is that intended for like a parking lot at some point later, or?
Sure, so, I'm just gonna point. Because, the parking is set up on the back side of these, on the buildings north of here. When we enter on First Avenue and head up 15th, I mean, it's quite obvious we weren't gonna be able to access those parking lots for a second entrance from down here. So we had to basically split this lot, get far enough away from this intersection so that we could have people enter that back parking lot and this back parking lot. It's right across from Mercantile. Otherwise, it was too close. So we always knew we were gonna have to split this into two lots. And chances are you weren't gonna have a building that long anyway. But this gives us a drive lane to the back of the property and the parking lot in the back. And it's a good place to split the lot. We decided last fall that we were just about out of inventory. In fact, we signed a lease today for the end space on Dilworth Mercantile, so we'll have a floral shop going in there by September. And then we needed some more inventory of lease spaces, so nothing concrete that I can talk about there yet, but a little bit of interest, so we'll just keep plugging away, so.
any other questions for Lance? Anything like Peyton said, in the presentation we went through during planning, thoroughly vetted by planning commission, great questions, great responses from Lance. It's gonna be exciting, continuing to grow.
I have one last question.
Go ahead, thank you.
What are you gonna name the third building?
This building is the Milton.
The Milton.
Yeah, and that's
Appropriate.
I love it.
Mike and Steve's dad's name.
That's perfect, I
Yeah.
absolutely love it.
And it'll face, there will actually be a couple storefronts facing south, and then one facing east. So it's designed to be 3 or 4 spaces, but there'll be the front of the building. Well, there's 2 fronts. There's one facing south and one east. So if you look at the profile that's out there now, you'll see that the elevation raises up in the front. It also raises up in the east, so. Just works better. There'll be diagonal parking on the south side here like this, parking on the north, and then also diagonal parking coming in off 15th. So it'll be surrounded by parking too. So should be a good space for somebody.
Any other questions?
And Kevin, there's no sprinkler in it. Sorry. Too small.
We can work on that.
All right, so with that, there are no further questions. I will entertain a motion for the final plat.
So moved.
I have a motion by Bora
Second.
and a second by Nash. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, and I really, really like and appreciate the name. That's outstanding.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. Thank you. With that, it does move us to 9 Bravo, discussion and consideration of the carbon reduction program funding.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. Hopefully I can work my way through this here, and the staff report provided a little bit of context with it. So we were awarded $100,000 in CRP funds not long ago via the whole Metro, what I call like the MetroCog process, federal dollars. And that was to be applied towards our shared use project, shared use path project and bridge along County Road 9 between 3rd Avenue Northwest and 4th Avenue Northwest. The total project cost is around $600,000. We were tying this to our Safe Routes to School grant application that we filed for several $100,000. And the thought process was if we were to receive those monies, that would allow us some flexibility to do this project and reallocate around some funding. When we were going through the prioritization process with the city of Moorhead, Clay County, and MetroCog, which all has to be voted upon, the idea was that these funds would be if we didn't want to proceed forward with the project, these funds would be reallocated to the city of Moorhead for an improvement they were making along 40th Avenue South. So it's pretty easy, right, thus far. Well, recently, Moorhead made the determination that they're no longer pursuing the federal funding for the 40th Avenue South project, and now they're redirecting. They already had some federal dollars going towards that 40th Avenue project and STBG dollars. However, they would now like to reallocate those funds to the Blue Stem Bridge project, which is just a pedestrian bridge project that will cross over the Red River by Blue Stem. It's a joint project between them and the city of Fargo. Where it gets a little complicated is that since there was already a prioritization set forth going back about 5-6 months ago between us, technically speaking, those funds become eligible again. You can't just arbitrarily say, I want to reapportion my monies to go to a different project. It has to go through this prioritization schedule there. So that $100,000 that we have, we can't just say, okay, now it gets applied towards the Blue Stem project, just like they can't say their STBG dollars are going to be going towards the Blue Stem project. Yes.
So with that reallocation thing, so can we reallocate the $100,000 into a different project for us? So it's that project. Okay, thank you.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, for those at home, I was nodding my head no.
Right.
I just have up this on the screen.
Right, and-
But no, you're absolutely correct. So, and the thing that makes this very complicated is that to get the federal process going, it's time consuming. And you can't just on a dime say we're going to now have a federal project for this. So let's say our sidewalk projects, we were looking to do some improvements with all of our area sidewalks in town. You can do that. However, that makes the entire project subject to the entire federal program. So you have to do environmental for the entire area in which we're designating, not just the area that you're spending these $100,000 on. So anyways, so we have multiple options here. We can proceed with the project, still use the CRP funds, which means the remaining balance would come from our levy plus reserves. Now, with that in mind, that would most likely mean that any road improvement dollars that we're doing for next year, unless you take it all out of reserves, so I mean, there's other creativities that we could do with this. those funds would pretty much all be going towards this, knowing that we also have other projects that we maybe like to be doing. We can retain the CRP funds and attempt to recapture the available STBG dollars. And what that means is, if we say we don't want these funds, these are all going back into this big pot of money that we can apply for and still say, or the STBG dollars would be going back into this pot. And we could say, hey, we would like $300,000 or $400,000, and the group collectively would vote on that. So that means that would be a reduction in what the city of Moorhead would be receiving currently for their 40th Avenue, soon to be Blue Stem project. Or you just release them and allow reallocation, which would likely go to Moorhead. Where, just from I don't even know if it's an ethical standpoint, but just when we were going through the prioritization process, we negotiated this in good faith that if we did not get the money, it would go towards Moorhead. Whether it was going towards 40th Avenue or whatever that may be, they were just calling the shots that time, saying we'd like it to go, because we're doing this other project, we just throw it towards it. So, that's sort of that's more from my perspective, how I'm coming from it, is that we didn't really care where those monies were going, as long as they were going to be used. However, it changes the entire dynamics if we feel that we want to go after additional funds. We could go in and make our pitch at a meeting and say, hey, we should be eligible to receive these other federal dollars, and then that we could couple with our CRP funds to maybe make this project a go. MetroCog is looking for some direction with this, how we think we're going to go, because we're soon going to have another reprioritization meeting, not just for us, but for some things going on the North Dakota side. There's a committee that meets that decides the fate of both states' projects, and they're the ones who ultimately make that determination and recommend, approval to the policy board. So with that in mind, there may be some clarification that I can hopefully provide for you if you need any with this. Again, the engineer's estimate for the project, $600,000, might be a little high. Andrew did that intentionally to make sure we were covering all of our bases, but we felt like with everything that would go on with that project, there's a lot of, obviously, ditch work. Got to put in a pedestrian bridge over ditch 50, but also there's quite a bit of other ditch work that you have to do with pipe encapsulation and some grading that would go on as well, that makes the project even more costly, even though it's a relatively short run right there. Also knowing, I know it's a very high priority project, right? There's always people on County Road 9 on the shoulder there moving along. The county engineer is seeing, so next year in 2026, County Road 9 is set to be milled and overlaid. So we're going to be doing a little revamping of the roadway. I did speak with the county engineer about the possibility of at least striping it through there to have some level of designation. He's checking to see if it's possible. Didn't sound very promising, because those are drop shoulders there along County Road 9, and he is not certain that it would fly, and also not certain it would fly with the state aid process. But that is something that at least we did check on in that respect. But open to field any questions and hopefully provide some clarity with this, because I know it is a little complicated, lots of moving pieces with this.
Questions from council? Julie?
So how much was Moorhead's potential allocation through the STBG funds? Like, was it?
I know, yeah, I'm wanting to, and I'll also have to double check to make sure, and maybe I can pull it up here while we're working through things. I'm wanting to say a little over $1 million. That number's in the back of my mind right now, but let me double check that while we're.
That's
working
okay.
through
I'm
things.
just kind of thinking scale again, because I don't know what project they had up and what the Blue Stem is. Obviously, the Blue Stem's probably going to be a more expensive project, which is why they're pulling it from the one to the other. which also is probably getting North Dakota funds for the other side of it.
Yeah, and so the reason why they're reallocating their funds is that they were semi-confident they were gonna be getting some earmarked dollars from the federal government, and that is no longer happening.
Julie?
Okay, and so since it's along County Road, again, I'm kind of thinking it's kind of a city-county project in some ways, right? So whether or not, I don't know, again, how it was allocated and how much everyone's getting. I mean, we try to make it fair when we're like
Yep.
divvying up those, STBG funds and the carbon reduction ones as well. And then, of course, because some of these can also use the STBG funds. So I think as long as we're eligible for it, it seems like it would be worth the ask. Because otherwise it seems like a big reach, right? If we have other projects we'd rather focus on. But couple other thoughts, like if it's not safe, if they don't want to stripe because of the soft shoulders, is it safe to put paths there?
It's gonna be pulled back quite a bit from the roadway, and that's all gonna be filled in. So right now, it's roadway, got a little bit of a shoulder that kind of drops off, then it goes right into a ditch. If I understand correctly, that ditch would no longer exist. And when I'm saying ditch, I'm saying the part that's running north-south, east-west, obviously, would be there with the concrete
So that's
line.
county, not Buffalo watershed, or not watershed, what am I?
Right.
Buffalo River Watershed,
Yeah.
yeah, the people that we pay our ditch taxes to.
Correct.
Because I was wondering if there's any advantage to them if we were to do the project, and,
Yeah, and so I talked to the county about doing this as well, and I don't get the sense they have much interest in this. A big reason is that, sort of like how I was describing earlier with the whole federal programming, once you open yourself up to doing a portion of this project with federal dollars, so when us we're putting in a pedestrian bridge, that opens up the entire project that they're doing next year along County Road 9. So they have to do environmental all the way from Highway 10 all the way up to 15th Avenue, I believe, is where they're going with it. And it's for $100,000, it's not worth them doing it.
And that's my question, and more sort of council. I mean, because we're ultimately chasing $100,000, but we're gonna have to spend another 500,000. And to me, that seems like, I don't know, for that project, I think I could spend $500,000 on other road projects in town, first and foremost. And that's when I was reading through this, looking through this, like, it's $500,000, and what is our number one priority with $500,000? If you had it for roads or whatever specifically, what would we be doing? And I don't know if it'd be a pedestrian bridge right now. I just don't. I like the idea. We need the connection from east to west, but I'm gonna, because I have the same notes, Julie. It's a county road, county participation. We know where that went. Thank you, Peyton. But, can we pursue this down the road to look at a partnership between the county, between the watershed, the ditch district, not easy to say, and see where it can take us? I mean, if it's the difference of $100,000, I guess I'm of the mindset that it's not, we can move it. And if we can almost guarantee that the money could be utilized by our neighbor and not put back into the pot and reallocate it elsewhere, that's kind of where my head's at. Like I said, if we have to raise taxes for $500,000, I'd want to be spread out through some asphalt if possible. Yes.
And we looked at other possibilities. One thing that we talked, and I had Paul's with MetroCog, he kind of oversees this side of thing. We looked at trying to reallocate the funds to 34th Street, since we know that's already going through the 34th Street project right now. And at least we know everything's covered there, but it has to be spent in that physical federal year of 26, and we're not going to be meeting that since that's going to be a 25 project there. So it cannot be just shifted over to another project. So we're trying to think as creatively as possible about how we could retain the dollars there, and we just couldn't figure out a way to do it.
The project has to be a 26 project?
Yep.
The bill can't be couldn't they
work
just
like
charge
that.
us for the hydro seeding in the spring of 26? No, I appreciate the creativity, Bill, and I'm gonna say that, like, I'm more interested into preserving our existing infrastructure than I am building a pedestrian bridge to the tune of $600,000 right now.
Can I ask one more
Please,
question?
Julie.
Peyton, the Safe Routes to School grant app request was for the remainder, or,
No,
because
what
we
we-
have to have a match, right?
No, actually, for this one, you didn't.
Oh, okay.
We were matching a little bit. So the Safe Routes to School one, it was fully a state program, not a federal program, which in the federal is when you normally see a 50-50 grant for a Safe Routes to School project. This one it was just the historical area of town, our downtown area, where we just did our mill and overlays recently. And that was going to cover the cost of, I believe that was for new sidewalks that we would be putting in, and then the city was gonna cover the rehabilitation of the sidewalks at that point. But much less stringent requirements were going along with that, and that would have allowed us to just be creative with our funding at that point, and would have allowed us to, shift over some monies to this other project, depending upon what we got back. If we didn't feel like we were gonna receive enough in the state funding, then we probably would be having this conversation again.
What I-
Unfortunately, we didn't score well.
Yeah, well, and my question was how much we had thought was going to be covered of this part of the project, the 600,000 we're talking about.
Yep.
How much would have been covered with the Safe Routes to School had we received it? Because I'm like, what's the ask? Like, if
Yeah.
we were already gonna cover 400,000 or
Wow.
if we're just talking the difference of 100,000 more, but
Yeah, I believe, I can't remember what the grant amount was that we put in. I wanna say like $600,000 or $700,000 that we were.
for the whole,
Yes,
yeah.
so, I mean, there's still gonna be a burden the city was gonna be carrying
Yeah.
with this. So really,
Oh.
and so really it just comes down to if the city is wanting, and not that we have to make that whole determination right now, but I get the sense some of our prioritization going forward from here, from a strategic standpoint, is to be rehabilitating and taking care of our sidewalks in the older part of town. That was gonna allow us to do that on a more, expedited schedule, and then the city would be, fronting the difference in whatever this other project would be right there. So now it's like, well, if you don't do that, it's putting off the downtown portion, another year.
Yeah, and again, my thing is, I don't know what our comfort level is of what we would want to pay, again, because if we were to ask for extra STBG funding, what would our ask be something that we as a city would be comfortable going with that project before something else?
And
Is kind of,
And to kind of buffer that point, it's really, if we were going back to the drawing board, going back to the prioritization schedule and making a pitch, I think the way we would attack it would be, hey, we know we have $100,000, we know we have a $600,000 project. If we were asking for $300,000 of this, so we know we're still making up the difference there. What is our comfort level if we wanted to go that route? Again, the only kicker with it all is, as I understand, Moorhead fills, that's whatever that number was, again, I'm still trying to find it. I think it's just a little over $1 million. Because that's what our STBG funding is for 15. But that's pretty well going to cover the difference in what their federal ask from the senator, from the earmark spending was going to be. And I think they feel pretty confident that that will fill that gap and be able to complete their project. So, again, I don't even know if they're going to need the $100,000, but I do have a few reservations. I'll do whatever, but I do have a few reservations saying we kind of negotiate this in good faith and then say, hey, since you're not doing this now, the good faith part's off the table, maybe, I don't know, depends on how you look at it. And we're gonna go after $200,000 or $300,000 of these funds now.
Right, because if we ask, if council is comfortable with the 50-50, right, and they give us 3 and we pay 3, the extra 200,000 is gonna come out of like Moorhead's share, right?
Correct.
And so it's not like I mean, so, and again, how it's negotiated, this is our slice of the pie, this is what, right? And so to ask for more would be taking it from Moorhead.
Correct. Even though they
that's-
technically do not have it applied towards the project, it would be our position to support that if that's what they were going to do. Again, we didn't care where the funds were going to. We wanted to make sure someone was getting them. We had first dibs at it.
Yeah.
And then since we didn't get the grant, that time we were gonna turn it over, release it to them. But, you know, this just changes it up a little bit there. So, and personally, I don't think it's worth it. And sadly, and I don't even know if they're gonna be able to use the $100,000. I don't know if it's worth trying to, I don't think it's worth upsetting a neighbor over it.
I don't either.
And additionally, we made us lose this $100,000 because I don't know if they're even gonna use it, because they hopefully will be able to cover everything with these other funds.
So with that, where does the money go if it's not utilized? Let's say if it's not utilized, does it go back into the pot to be reallocated again next year?
That's it.
So where
Well,
does it go if it's not used?
it's possible the STBG funds could be reallocated back to something else, and the carbon reduction funds could be.
Right.
So some of them, like STBG funds, can be used differently than how the carbon reduction funds can be used. But
As I understand, the CRP funds would just go away. They would be returned to central office, and that would be the extent of it. I'm not sure how the STBG dollars, say if they don't use $100,000 of it or whatever, I'm not sure what happens. I assume those get returned as well, and they go back into somewhere that we probably never see again. It's not like it gets carried over to the 28 program.
Right. Right.
And frankly, we're very, we don't even know if the program's gonna exist now with just some changes that are being made at the federal level. This might be the last year for the carbon reduction program.
I'm still of the mindset that I'm not excited to spend 500,000 to get one. That's, you know, the 50-50 match or, you know, that we're accustomed to is like, I'm okay with that. I'm okay if we have to hold on to this project for a better funding opportunity than spending $500,000 on that project right now. And I don't know what else the council thinks. That's kind of where I stand.
I agree with you, Chad. I think we can release the funds back to them, especially with the narrative that you kind of spelled
Yep.
out.
Yeah.
Maybe it buys us a little good faith with them, you know, not that we need it, but, and then just try to roll this project into something maybe a little larger with the mill and overlay.
Yeah.
I mean, is that, do
That
we have a
certainly is-
legit shot to
It
do
really
that?
is, and so we could almost like bid it like as an alternate, you know, if you're doing another project, because we've done that before. And, you know, you get better prices that way as well and also helps from a bonding perspective, right? When you're doing a larger scale project, and you could add this in, it's already been somewhat designed
that's-
already. And yeah, you could throw this in as part of a larger project and have this in as an alternate. We could decide at that time how you want to do it. Because I do know it is even though we haven't ranked it internally, it's a high priority for
Yeah.
obvious
No,
reasons right there.
Yeah,
Yep,
The idea
it's
is
necessary. to do.
sound. It's the timing right now, I think.
yeah.
Any other thoughts, comments, questions, comments, concerns? So council, are we okay with moving forward and allowing Peyton to, what is the term we used?
Yeah, my intent is to tell him that we're,
Reallocate the funds or,
yep, they'll go back into the prioritization process and we'll support their efforts to use it, to
Support
use
it.
the funds.
yeah, supporting Moorhead's efforts?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's a good way to go because being we didn't get that safe route to school, I mean, this is a huge hit if we have to
Yep.
take it on ourselves essentially, and it wasn't planned that way. And I mean, I go along there every day, so I do know the importance of it being built. I mean, no question about that, but it really didn't work out in our favor, this, you know, for the funding. So I think you're on the right track to pass on this.
And Moorhead has been, yeah, it's good neighborly relations. They've been good neighbors and have given us, I'm saying given us money, but we've been good to, as far as working together with one another and benefited from our 34th Street project, getting the better end of that deal, I will say. So yeah, this would just go back and return, and we'll see where it goes. Hopefully, they can use the funds. And in addition to that, they may be able to, they would have more flexibility as well. Because there are certain things that they would have flexibility with as far as other projects that they can maybe apply this towards. We just hate to see the money get lost. So
Right.
if anyone's going to, we hope one of us can use it. So we'll see what we can get figured out.
You have enough direction, Peyton?
I do.
All right, thank you. With that, it moves us to number 10. And 10 alpha is naming rights to city-owned parks, facilities, land, et cetera. Peyton?
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. So semi-frequently, I don't want to say a lot of requests, but we do take phone calls on, various occasions about naming rights, maybe at a city park. So someone wants to put in a bench in memory of someone or wants to do another noble type cause. We field those questions quite often. We have no clear formal policy, or I guess our policy technically is we don't allow it right now since we don't have a policy on it. And the reason why I'm bringing this to the city council is just to make you aware that some other communities do have policies, and I think I included a couple of those in. And this can span a wide range from naming of a tree up to maybe a large commitment for a facility. Like say you were doing something at the community center and you had a big donor that was doing something to have a naming right. But I wanted to bring this to the council to see if there's any need or desire, parameters by which a policy should be developed, what should be included, not included within the policy. And from our position, our dilemma with it all is that oftentimes it's an individual or a group that wants to do something that's very noble, and we want to support that to the best of our abilities. But where we have concerns is that we also know long term people come and go, people move on. Then all of a sudden you have something that's not properly cared for that was supposed to be this group's endeavor. It falls back on us. The city does not want to seem insensitive to a cause or any type of memorial that's going in at a location. So that's why I wanted to have this discussion with the city council and see if there's a policy it would like to see drafted, or just somewhat give some parameters of a policy that I can develop.
I mean, I'm not against naming things, but again, like, say not only that, but views on things or things come to light later in life, and now we've named something after someone and may not be appropriate or something, and that's some of my concern, or some people think it's a noble reason to name something, and like there may be disagreement, and so in the policies, I just want to make sure, and I think some of this language from other cities talking about at least this amount for, or this percent of the funding for it, but I want to still leave it at our discretion of whether or not, just because you put 50% in or 60% or whatever we decide that level is, that we still are okay with it as well. I don't feel like just because you bought something, now we have to put it there. Just because you bought a park bench, but it may not fit the aesthetics of the park, that now I don't want the language to be that because we allow it, now it must go. That would be my concern.
Other thoughts?
I agree with Julie. I think we need to make sure that there's safeguards in place so that if we do need to make some decisions with how things look in the future, that we have the ability to do that. I mean, is it from your experience, is it mostly monetary?
No.
Or it's physical items, they wanna
Yeah.
bring a bench to the park and then put
Bench,
someone's name
tree,
on it?
something even more expansive that they're willing to maintain for the time being.
That they are, and so like it would seem to me like you'd almost have to, it would just have to be a gift to the city, right? Like, and then it would be on us to maintain it. Otherwise, how can we, how's Mike and the guy supposed to know that, you know, what John Doe is and his family are out taking care of the birch tree they bought? There's a lot to unpack in that.
Churches always run into this problem. Everybody has a memorial, everybody wants, and it doesn't fit in with the church's scheme and that, you know, church's plan, and some where the family thinks is appropriate, really is not quite appropriate. I mean, those things probably don't need the ongoing care, but, I mean, and people like benches, obviously, but it's gonna go from one thing to the next, and you'd almost have to have something, yeah, you can create policy and guidelines, but there's always twists and turns to it. And then if it's in disrepair and the tree breaks off or whatever, there's always gonna be some family member upset. And I agree with Julie, naming something after a person is always dangerous. We've seen that in Fargo hugely, and it's happened all over the country. So then it gets to be a big problem because, you know, 100 years ago, it was fine. Now it represents things we don't want to even be associated with. So I would say it's kind of a slippery slope if you're not very, very careful in how you organize it, implement it, and proceed with it. So, I mean, it's great ideas. People have the best intentions at the time, but things do change over time.
Kevin?
I'd say if we are gonna go down the naming avenue, I think that it needs to be written in there that the city does have final discretion and the ability to rename, you know, at any time,
You know, if something goes haywire or.
overnight.
I'm kind of reading that we're very hesitant to do this. We're very hesitant to go down, like, and from my vantage, I don't want to see it happen. But when it comes to parks and things like that, I think it's problematic. As we're transforming Dilworth into a, you know, we're adding amenities and stuff, I wouldn't be I'm not opposed to the naming rights of the athletic component to the community center. I would put Shields Athletic Center on the side of that in a heartbeat. But I think that's naming rights to a facility, and I don't know if that's different. And I would definitely want to tie that, obviously, that would be tied right into some significant monetary contribution. You want your name on a building, it's gonna cost. You want your name in a room, it's gonna cost.
There's also an end.
Yeah, right, and there could be an end site, you know, an end date, it could sunset, you get it for 10 years, 15 years, or whatever. But in terms of like renaming Whistle Stop Park, or creating, you know, what are we gonna rename what are we gonna name the park? When it comes into fruition on the north side. I think that's a community decision on something that really, you know, fits with what we're doing and the feeling or the attitude of the park itself, not necessarily, you know, the person who may have donated some land or whatever the case may be. I don't want to, like, we had this conversation not too long, or actually a while ago, about our swimming pool, and do we rename our swimming pool after a former lifeguard and things like that. And the decision was no, right? And because it's problematic. I guess from my perspective, if we're gonna look at policy when it comes to naming, I would really like a focus on the name recognition for facilities. You know, and that really, and you see that all over the place, whether it's a basketball court or a hockey rink or whatever the case may be, baseball field. Someone, if there's a significant donor, you know, it has their name attached to it. I think that has some merit. Julie?
So I'm gonna go back to the smaller things. This is where I think probably more people wanna make small, like, contributions. Like, let's say we're putting in a huge park and we have this much funds and someone's like, it would really be great if you also had a picnic table. Like, is there a way? And they wanted to donate that. Now, we acknowledge it at city council meeting, but people coming to the park wouldn't know, like, could a policy be written, we will acknowledge your donation for 5 years with a plaque or something? You know, like, is there a way to acknowledge? I don't know if we want to go that route. I'm just saying, I know sometimes people, you know, and it's not to be like in memory forever. We're not naming the park this, but you could have something with like purchase with the funds from.
Yeah,
Something.
if you look at the Veterans Park in Detroit Lakes as you go down Highway 10, there are benches there, and you remember Sergeant Reaver, right? It has his name on it, and I contributed to that. And I think, you know, if we had like benches or picnic tables, you know, and the Lions did a good job with the shelter at the old community center, and it had, you know, there's ways to do it. I just, like we said, we just could be very, very careful.
Yeah, I don't want to make it a naming thing, but I feel like there's still ways. I'm sorry. Did I
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
to like acknowledge something if we had something major like that. I don't want to say we're not willing to acknowledge when people do something wonderful for the city.
Absolutely.
But not maybe to the extent of naming rights to something.
Kevin?
I just, to Dave's point earlier too, how churches run into it. I mean, I've seen it firsthand. We had 6 organs, or, you know, like, what are you gonna do with, everybody's got a piano in the basement that, you know, so it's like, I get, like, I get it. I just, it's gotta be like ironclad, and people have to be okay with getting their feelings hurt a little bit, cause I mean, maybe we don't need 30 picnic tables, you know, like,
Right.
I don't know.
Mr. Steichen?
I often see plaques on shelters, gazebos, benches when I travel all over, but I mean, it might have the family name, or if they got bricks that you can donate so much, put a name on a brick or whatever. So that's just a small one part, but it's still got to fit into the scheme. I mean, if it's, you know, there's definite appropriate things, and there's things that we might not feel is appropriate. So we definitely have to have the power to, you know, approve or not approve, even though, I mean, you can't come up with every scenario possible in a guideline, but, I mean, they can always, I mean, they want something physical and tangible they could go to and say this is, but, I mean, money is always the easy way, but they like tangible things that they could touch and see and sit on, or if that's the case.
Anything else? Does that give you enough direction, at least to get started, so we can see some model policy or some general ideas? Were we vague enough to give you enough room to at least work and struggle over the next couple of weeks?
Sounds like we need a policy. It's, what that means, I don't know. But I can come up with a few ideas, though, based upon our conversation from today.
Yeah. Because the recognition and acknowledgement of the contributions of the city of Dilworth needs to be identified and be given thanks.
And it's it's a larger discussion. I mean, obviously, it's naming rights of something, but it also gets back to the maintenance of some of these. Now, some things are just a straight donation to the city, basically, and they want to put a little sign or placard there next to it, and that's one side of it. The other side is if they're doing some type of endeavor that's going to require an ongoing maintenance to it, that's where it really gets complicated. You know, we want to designate this little apple orchard area that we're creating over here you know, in memory of someone, or then next thing you know, that the person's moved, and then they're like, why isn't the city keeping up with their parks out there? And that's what it becomes.
Yeah.
You set, Pete?
Oh, yeah.
So with that, it does move us to number 11. We have Resolution 2534, accepting the donation from the Dilworth Lions Club for Loco Days. Peyton?
That's me, and thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Lions Club is awesome. They came through yet again with a sizable donation as entailed in your Resolution 2534, and we are very gracious for their contribution, and they are a mainstay of the Local Days festivities and look forward to putting their funds to good use.
Questions? I will entertain and I will make the motion to accept the donation from the Lions Club as an example of their continued and ongoing support, not only of Local Days, but of our community.
Second.
Go ahead.
I got a second by Nash and a third by Peterson. So with that, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. That does move us to number 12. Council members' concerns, committee updates, are on the horn. Kevin?
Thanks again to the Lions. Loco Days is 6 weeks away, so I think the mailers we should be seeing shortly here.
Yep.
Anything I'm missing? I think that's all I got tonight.
Yeah, thank you.
Southside Social on Wednesday night, so I hope everybody can come out and see things at Cottonwood. See what's going on out there. It should be a fun night. So if you guys are available, come on out. That's it.
Mr. Steichen?
Yeah, I was able to show off our new fire hall to a firefighter from South Dakota that was in town, relative. Very impressed with what he saw. I mean, extremely impressed. I mean, Chief Payne isn't here to hear everything about this, but, you know, when you start explaining what this is for and what this will be used for, the potential for this use, he was very impressed on what we accomplished as, you know, a smaller city. So it's fun to talk about things we've made work, not are doing, but as a city, it's fun to show off what we have and explain what it is we have and how it's used, and so that was fun. I'm not really part of the longest table event, but Vice Mayor Nash and I have been involved over the years, but it's planned again for September 18th at Trinity Lutheran in Moorhead. If they can get the funding for it, they still need a little bit more money to pull this off. I think Vice Mayor Nash will agree that if anybody has a chance to go to it, it's worth it, right? Yeah, it's worth it. I developed some friendships from that over the year, from being there in the past. So anyway, it's available. I think it's on a Wednesday or Thursday of a school week that in September. So keep that in mind. September 18th, I imagine there'll be more about it coming out. Next week is a federal holiday, Juneteenth. So I usually do something on Juneteenth. I'm not exactly sure what's going on in Fargo, Moorhead this year, but I usually go to some event, and it's interesting to see what they put on and how they present, and different foods or fashions or events or dances or whatever it is that they put on. But I think it's important not to forget about it. I mean, you know, I think everybody probably knows I have to write an article for our work magazine, so I've been researching it. So for those that don't know, it is Galveston, Texas, in 1865 was when the last enslaved people were notified they were no longer slaves. So even though they were granted freedom, it's taken generations, and it will take generations in the future to get back to where they should have been, and the problems that came about, and the contributions they made to this country. So if you see something coming up on for the Juneteenth celebration, take it in, be a part of it. I think you'll feel it's well worth it. So other than that, that's where I'm going to end.
All right, thank you, Mr. Steichen. Julie?
Okay, so our officers are now qualified with their Glock red dots, so that's good. Officer Monahan and Sergeant Danhoff at the FBI getting certified to become firearms instructors, so we can do that training here then. And Lunch with a Cop was so successful, they ran out of food and had to get more. So that's quite a program that's growing, so that's just an update. And then Community Huddle, you and Chief Rawson were at, so I don't know if you have updates on that yet you can share, but I will just note that. And other than that, just ongoing meetings on some other items going on, so good to go.
Thank you, Julie. Peyton?
Thank you. On July 10th, that will be our next public input opportunity for the community center project. Want to make note of that for everyone. Our labor negotiation team has had their first round of meetings, having another set this week. Real excited that we're able to kick off that process as early as we have this year. I think it's going to be beneficial from a budgeting standpoint, so appreciate everyone that's involved with it.
Anything else, Peyton?
No, sir.
All right, so with that, I will touch on the community huddle real quick, mainly because I want to give a shout out to, yes, Chief Rawson, who was there kind of leading the way, leading our table. Great community connection, just watching him in action. But also to Crystal Jamerson, resident of Dilworth, on our planning commission. She was, and she was in charge, and she was in her element, and she was amazing. A great opportunity to watch non-governmental organizations serve their communities. I mean, whether it's childcare, employment opportunities, food bank, hygiene bank, all these things, and to have the everyone coming together over at MSUM and the Christensen Alumni Center or whatever was absolutely amazing. So again, Crystal did a fantastic job, and I think of starting something that's going to, it has some legs and has the opportunity to grow and continue to make significant impact. Additionally, had the opportunity to go to the workforce seminar put on by the EDC out at Microsoft. And again, interesting, we've seen it in terms of, they talk about employment opportunities, like workforce shortages, where they're at, and they talk about the importance of college, but the importance of trade, and really that skill set, and 62% of the jobs that are available do not require a college degree. And I think we're seeing a shift in that, through the academic lens, the high school lens, the importance of the people that make our houses function, our cities function, cannot be overstated. And that was, again, it was a great conversation and great opportunity. And with that, Peyton, should we just hold off on the meeting from this afternoon?
I think you can make mention of it if you want.
Yeah, and again, just pulling back the curtain a little bit, we're fortunate we have, our city administrator working with City of Moorhead and Clay County, formulating our plan to work with White Earth Tribe to facilitate this potential casino. They've been working with weekly meetings to try to get all the questions asked and answered. Great leadership. Peyton did a fantastic job leading the discussion today and really outlining the steps to come. And really, it's been an ongoing process, and we look to have another productive meeting once the group calls us back in and says, "Here, we're ready to make the next move." But the detail they put in and the presentations that we had today, I mean, the questions are being asked, they're looking for answers. It's definitely not, it's not an easy decision, and the nuances are many. And I will say, like, I am extremely confident with the full-time employees that are meeting on a regular basis to make sure that our communities are served, as well as, you know, the best option moving forward with all of our communities and, you know, a potential business coming to town. Not necessarily our town, but you know what I'm saying? I think my hat's off to Peyton. It was fantastic. The administrators and who's the Moorhead? I could see him in pads. I could see him in his UND skates. Derek Lapointe. Yeah, Mr. Lapointe is, again, he's on point, but again, just a great team. So that was a good meeting today, great conversation with the communities and the counties and townships. So looking forward to progress there. And that's all that I have at this time, with the addition of I am gonna be out until our next meeting. I will be out of the country for a moment, but we'll be in good hands. I know that to be the case. It does move us to number 13, pay the bills. Questions on the bills? Well, I'll entertain a motion to pay the bills.
So moved.
A motion by Nash,
Second.
second by Bora. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And with there being no further business before council's meeting, call this meeting adjourned.